All right, let's dive right into this explainer. We're looking at a story that completely changes how we view the athletes we watch every weekend, Dele Alli. It's a name that evokes one of the most massive what-ifs in the modern game. And today, we're setting the stage for what has to be one of English football's most unsettling, totally unscripted moments ever caught on camera.
So picture this. We're starting right inside the manager's office back in 2019. Jose Mourinho is sitting there delivering this chillingly precise warning to a 22-year-old Dele Alli. He tells him, "Time flies, and one day I think you will regret it if you don't reach what you can reach." It's heavy, right? And this exact interaction really serves as the central mystery of our whole story today. Why didn't he reach it?
Part 1. An unsettling prediction. Part 2. A generational talent. To truly understand the sheer magnitude of the collapse that followed Mourinho's warning, we've got to rewind a bit. We have to remember the unbelievable, absolute fever-pitch hype surrounding Dele right at the start of his professional career. Back in 2015, Tottenham Hotspur paid £5 million for 19-year-old kids straight out of England's third division. Now, an absolute bargain like that in today's inflated market barely buys you a backup player. But back then, the whole country wanted to know if this kid could actually handle the step up to the Premier League. And well, he answered that by scoring in his second game.
The praise was just immediate and massive. I mean, you had English football legend Roy Hodgson saying he saw shadows of the great Brian Robson, and then his manager, Mauricio Pochettino, flat out stated he had the potential to be as good as Neymar. Neymar! And look, these weren't just crazy media exaggerations cooked up to sell papers. These were elite technical evaluations from top-tier managers. It really felt like proof that he was absolutely destined to dominate a generation.
And the numbers backed it up completely. His early stats painted a picture of a player who wasn't just, promising, but immediately elite. 10 goals and 10 assists in his very first season. Then, by his second season, he hits 22 goals. Throw in back-to-back Young Player of the Year awards and his absolutely crucial role in pushing Tottenham to a Champions League final. I mean, wow. These are the kinds of numbers elite strikers spend their whole careers aiming for, and he was pulling it off from the midfield.
So how exactly was he dominating so thoroughly? Well, we kind of call it the Dele role. He definitely wasn't your traditional deep-lying midfielder just sitting back and controlling the tempo with short passes. Not at all. He relied on this almost supernatural instinct to just arrive in the box at the exact right second, usually after a 30-meter run that literally no one tracked. But, and here is the huge catch, that specific style is completely heavily dependent on having an optimal mental state. Because he relied so entirely on instinct, it meant that the moment his mental state was off, he was virtually invisible on the pitch.
Part 3. The silent collapse. The sheer decline that started after 2018 is just so fascinating to look back on. Because, well, it wasn't due to some catastrophic knee injury. It wasn't a tactical shift that suddenly made him obsolete or some massive public scandal. It was something far more silent. Mourinho actually identified what he saw as a missing internal switch. Think about legends like Wayne Rooney or Zlatan Ibrahimovic. They had this fierce discipline, this unrelenting self-demand. But Dele? He was struggling with a really fluctuating mental state. He was relying entirely on external pressure, from fans or coaches, just to get him going. Mourinho saw right then that this volatility was the exact thing holding him back from true greatness.
And the grim reality of that missing internal switch is honestly startling when you lay out the numbers. During his peak at Tottenham, Dele scored 67 goals in 269 matches. We're talking over 19,000 minutes of high-level football. But in the post-Tottenham era, 0 goals. Just 29 matches across 3 totally different clubs with barely 1,000 minutes played. Let that sink in. These numbers don't show some gradual expected dip in form as a player gets older. They show a complete, almost unexplainable, hard stop.
Part 4. The hidden trauma.
For years, the entire football world basically accepted Mourinho's diagnosis as the absolute, complete truth of the matter. But then, in a 2023 interview with Gary Neville, Dele completely shifted our entire understanding of this mystery. He opened up and revealed a childhood timeline full of horrific, deeply unjust trauma. At just 6 years old, he suffered the absolute violation of being sexually abused by a friend of his mother's. It's a horrific thing that literally no child should ever have to endure. By 7, he was smoking. By 8, he was dealing drugs, until he was finally adopted at age 11. He was carrying this immense, completely unprocessed burden every single time he stepped out onto the pitch. And as he told us in that interview, it completely broke his heart to even consider retiring at just 24 years old. Think about the timing here. At the exact moment Mourinho was dropping him and publicly calling out his lack of drive, a 24-year-old Dele was secretly fighting a brutal addiction to sleeping pills. He ended up spending 6 weeks in a U.S. rehab clinic. He was basically using those pills to numb all that childhood trauma, probably without even fully realizing what he was doing at the time. Just waking up every single day, pretending to smile while being totally stuck in this terrible cycle. You see, for a kid growing up surrounded by gangs and crime, football was the ultimate escape valve. But here's the thing about escape valves. They don't actually heal trauma, they just delay confronting it. So, when the fans eventually stopped chanting his name, and the coach stopped picking him for the starting 11, his only escape valve broke, and he was left entirely alone with his demons.
Part 5. Fighting for the Future.
Fast forward to March 2026, and the story takes this totally unprecedented turn. Dele is actually taking deliberate step-by-step actions for a comeback. He returned to Tottenham to train completely without a contract. He started publicly posting his training clips, just deliberately embracing all that intense public scrutiny to prove his fitness. I mean, let's be real. Most players in a similar decline, they just fade quietly into smaller leagues and disappear completely. But instead, Dele is undertaking this incredibly transparent, honest battle right back where his incredible journey first began. He summarized it absolutely perfectly. He said, "I'm proud of who I am today. This battle against myself is the most important one." Guys, this is not the speech of a defeated athlete making excuses. No way. It's the profound realization that actually flourishing as a human being is an entirely different thing from just surviving your past.
Now, we do have to remain objective when we look at his actual sporting future. As former Spurs defender Stephen Carr pointed out, his chances of returning to that elite top-tier level are becoming very small. The reality of professional sports is incredibly harsh. Trying to come back after playing just 29 matches in 4 years, plus dealing with major clinical issues like hip surgery, that is a monumental uphill battle for sure.
But looking back, we can finally reconcile the two halves of this crazy story. Mourinho's diagnosis? Well, technically, he hit the nail on the head. Dele really did lack the professional self-demand required to stay at the absolute top. But the crucial missing context here is that no one, not even Mourinho, knew the extreme emotional weight this young man was carrying completely alone. That lack of self-demand wasn't just some lazy lifestyle choice. It was a direct symptom of deep, unprocessed pain. Ultimately, Dele's whole journey leaves us with this really profound question. Will you fulfill what you are truly capable of? His story is a huge reminder that reaching our potential requires so much more than just raw talent and discipline. It requires emotional stability, a real willingness to process our past, and crucially, having people around us to ask the right questions and provide that deep emotional support before it's too late. It's a completely powerful lesson for all of us. What do you think?